So what gave you the motivation to start your company? Because I believe it started with tools, right?
Yeah. So when I was living on Fulton and Pierce in, right there in the Western Addition, Fillmore area, I was working at that time. I was at FTC, Macy's. I don't know, had a couple jobs. I was selling trees. I was doing whatever I could. I was living with this girl. We got in some crazy shit. Actually, I went on a skate tour. This is how it all happened. I was sponsored by Think Skateboards at the time. We went on this big skate tour across the country for 2 months. Came back, found out she did some crazy shit. So I just packed up and left. And this is, my dad, how I said he moved to Santa Cruz. I went and lived with him for a year. And then while I was there, I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. Right. So I was already like learning how to use the computer because my boy Al, you've had him on here, Sketch.
Oh man,
so,
Al Fresco.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Al Fresco. Me and him used to fuck around on the computer. He used to take me to his school too, and I'd sit there because he went to Academy of Art.
Right.
So he was teaching me how to do graphic design and shit. Yeah, so Al was teaching me how to do graphic design stuff. I always drew and shit when I was young. And I was always into clothes, and I was always like, even, early EMB days, I'd like cut up clothes and sew patches on and, make my pants baggier or whatever. I was just always into clothes and stuff. So when I was there, me and this dude came up with this idea to make, this special hardware. And I was like, oh, this is dope. I'll just make this skateboard hardware invention and then sponsor all my friends that were already pro skaters and shit. And so that was my idea.
So was it for the
so
trucks?
basically, so the bolts that you put the bolts onto through the board and through the trucks, the nuts and bolts that hold the trucks onto the board. So the idea was that and back then it was like a big thing where it's stupid. People still do it sometimes, but back then it was like a thing where when people fuck up a lot skating, they'll just snap their board like on purpose.
Yeah.
Call it focusing the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have your shit, but then people always needed tools to set up a new board. So the idea was, instead of having a wrench and a screwdriver, is that the screw was an Allen key, but then the nut was like a dome shaped nut, but it had an Allen key on that side too. So now all you needed to take apart and put together a board was 2 little Allen keys, which you could just put in your pocket.
Keychain type shit.
Basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that came about. And me and Al, we were, before I moved to Santa Cruz for a year, we were talking about doing a clothing company. We kept coming up with names and shit. But then, this thing came up and I was like, fuck, I'm just going to make a hardware company and design t-shirts and shit. And then I came back to the city before I had the name, and I moved in with Greg Carroll, who owned Think Skateboards at the time. I moved in with him over there in Potrero Hill. And one night we were, I remember exactly how it went down. We were just driving. I was like, fuck, man, I want to do this company. Got to think of a name. And we were driving through the Tenderloin. And back then, the Tenderloin was crazy. This is in mid-97, right before 98. I started the brand 98 officially. But we were driving through the TL. And back then, it was just like pimps and hookers and fucking, it was just crazy back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was insane. Not like it is, the TL's still the TL,
insane.
but it's
a little less pimping.
The pimping's gone. Like, not how it used to be, right? Yeah. It was like every corner. Mm-hmm. And then, there were still crackheads and all this shit everywhere. And I remember we were driving at night, and Sade, Smooth Operator song, came on the radio while we're driving through. And the first words out of her mouth, one of the first words, she says Diamond Life in the song. And I was like, damn, Diamond Life. And I've heard the song a million times, obviously, but then it just clicked right then. I was like, damn, Diamond Life. I remember being like, damn, I don't want to live this life, like TL life. I want to live the diamond life. I'm gonna call that shit diamond. While we're in the car, I'm like, we're calling this shit diamond. So I hit up Al right away. I was like, Al, I got a name for my brand. It's Diamond. He's like, come over tomorrow. We'll work on a logo. So I was like, cool. So I went to his house in the morning, and first thing I was like, how should we make the logo look? He's like, just write Diamond 5 times on a piece of paper. So I hand wrote it 5 times, and he scanned it in the computer, and then he cleaned it all up. And then I was like, I'm making skateboard bolts and shit, so probably other skateboard accessories. So put Supply Co. right there down underneath the thing.
Very organic.
Yeah. So it was the first try we busted the logo.
That's fire though, because like Diamond Supply Co., it sounds like you're supplying diamonds, right?
Yeah,
Damn near.
yeah.
Like, so it's like you're dropping gems, right?
Yeah.
And then that diamond
but the
life.
Little bolts are the diamonds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
At what point did you decide on the color scheme? Because this is so iconic for your brand.
First it was just all black and red. So my whole shit was black and red. At first that was like my main thing, and then okay. So when I started Diamond, I actually when I very first started, I stayed at Greg's for a little bit, but then I moved into my boy Julian Stranger, pro skater from San Francisco, legendary guy. I moved in with him on 24th and York.
Damn, he was all over the city, man.
Yeah, I was right there.
24th
and York. So I lived there, and we built a mini ramp in the backyard, and we'd skate there every day. But that's when I started like doing the brand, and then I lived there for a year or so, because this was like 97, and then in 98 I officially started the brand. I moved over to Fell into Viz with my boy, and that's where I started making t-shirts and shit.
Yeah, I heard you lived above Madrone.
Where SF Hardware is. Right there across. Do you remember Reggae Run-Ins?
No.
Oh, it's old school. Reggae Run-Ins was a store right there on the corner of Fell and DeViz.
So this is before Madrone then?
I don't know what Madrone is.
It's right there on Fell and DeViz. It's the little art bar.
Oh, on the corner?
Yeah.
That was empty back then. And then at one point they're proposing to make it a Burger King, and everyone said no. Whatever, yeah.
Okay.
But what's the event space? It used to be Kennel Club back in the day, and then it was the Independent.
Yeah.
It was one block, right there in the middle, right there. SF Hardware, it's still there. So, and it's funny because it's called SF Hardware, and I had a hardware company in the apartment upstairs, 1-bedroom apartment. It's funny because my boy, we shared the apartment. It was a 1-bedroom. He slept. He built a loft. A lot of people used to do shit back then. He built a loft in the living room, because right when you walk in, there's like just a small room. So we built like a little wood deck and had the couch underneath, TV on the wall. So that was our living room. And then he slept above the couch. And then there was a kitchen, little tiny kitchen. And then I had a room to the right. So I had my own room. So I was hyped on that. And then it's a little bathroom. But we had a hallway, and that's where I'd put all my clothes. So I'd make the clothes. And my boy Skid had a print shop right there off of Potrero, actually right behind where the Potrero skate park is now. There's some warehouses right there. He used to have a print shop there before the skate park was there. I print my shit there. I bring it over to the house, have it sitting there, and then I'd ship it out of FTC. So I'd bring it all up to Haight and ship it out of there when I had orders and shit. But that's how I was doing it. I did that for 2 years out of the apartment. And then that's when I met San Quinn and everybody, because they were all in the neighborhood. And he was actually the first rapper to wear diamond. But even before that, Chuy Gomez would be on, he was on the California Music Channel.
CMC.
Yeah, and he'd be wearing diamond and shit.
Yeah.
I'd give him stuff, and so they were the first ones outside of skateboarding that I was like hooking up with product. And I'd just go around the neighborhood putting diamond stickers on everything. And then I was doing that for 2 years. And Mike Carroll, he owned Girl Skateboards now. My friend that I used to skate with Embarcadero, he moved to LA years prior, started Girl Skateboards, Girl and Chocolate Skateboards. They called me. They're like, damn, this shit's crazy. It's like everywhere, like everyone's rocking your shirts. Because even though I was making bolts, the logo, I was selling the shirts. So I was selling shirts to, well, first off, I was giving shirts to all the skaters and shit, my friends, and they're wearing it in magazines. They're wearing it, you know, in skate videos. And then I was selling it at Supreme in New York because I knew all those guys. And I was selling it at FTC. And then Kent from FTC got me distribution in Japan. So it ended up in like Japanese magazines and shit.
Japan is big on skating.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those were my first stores. So it was popping like right away, kind of just like the shit. Before I even had like bolts to sell, I was selling t-shirts and hats and sweatshirts. And they hit me up and they were like, and I had a girl, it was funny because I had a girlfriend at the time too in the city. And they called me and they're like, hey man, this shit's crazy. Would you want us to distribute it in LA? I had a girl. And I was like, yeah, that'd be sick. They're like, well, you kind of have to, you know, move here if you want to do it. And I literally got off the phone with them, called the U-Haul. Was like, can you be here at my house tomorrow at fucking 10 a.m.? I packed up all my shit and put it in the U-Haul the next day and moved to LA.
Wow.
Just like that. I was like, I'm not missing this opportunity.
Nah,
you know
good
I mean?
call, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, damn, that's epic.
Left my chick and everything.
Good call as well.
Yeah. I was like, sorry, babe, I'm out.
Hey, man, sometimes you got to make that decision.
Recognize where you got the game. We got our own style, got our own slang. Northern California is a West Coast thing. This is the history of the Bay. Recognize where you got the game. We got our own style, got our own slang. Northern California is a West Coast thing. This is the history of the Bay.